Stephen Gorman, Convergint. Thank you so much for joining me on Talent Month.
Thanks very much, Garry. It's great to be here with you. Really appreciate your time.
You look extremely relaxed there. Cool. You're calm. You're obviously enjoying this afternoon.
Yeah, I certainly am.
Based here in Ireland today, or are you Zooming?
So I work with a company called Convergint Technologies, and we're based here in Ballymount in Ireland. Got about 140 colleagues working with us here across multitude of projects across Ireland and Europe. So certainly kept busy.
So you're here on the call. We're celebrating talent. What talent have you got? apart from world conquer champion or something.
Is this when you pull the Graham Norton lever now and just make an exit out of the room?
I have to actually for the listeners, we have to be clear. Conquer is a chestnut. It's played anymore, is it?
Very good.
What's your talent and apart from the fact you were called last week and told get on there with Conley, how have you gone to working with 140 people in the digital infrastructure space? Where did it all start? Where did it all go right? Where did it go wrong?
I suppose it's always been an ambition of mine to get involved in the security industry. Certainly from a very young age, I was always fascinated with how things worked. I mean, at Christmas time, there was never a toy in the house that was safe, or certainly none of the toys that belonged to my sisters and brothers were safe either. You'd probably find they were taken apart with a couple of tools by Stevens's day and turned into something that maybe it wasn't the intended purpose. But
like Toy Story, when the doll's head was stuck on the Meccano Man. Remember that?
I'm sure, fast forward 20 or 30 years now, there's probably somewhere you would be sent to be checked out, maybe, But
we hope that's not the worst place you could be sent to.
But look, I actually qualified as a motorbike mechanic when I did my leaving cert when I was 18. I copped that there was a security course running in Foss and Baldoyle at the time. I did everything I could to get into the security industry, and that's all I've done for the last 20 odd years. I've had a combination of working for a number of small integrators in Ireland. I've worked with some of the larger integrators as well, and joined Convergint in the very early days when there were just 6 colleagues, actually, 5 years ago. So in the last sort of 3 or 4 months, I've been promoted to operations manager, which is terrific. Really happy in the position.
I'll come back to you in a year to see whether I applaud you or I commiserate, but we'll kick that one down the line.
Yeah. So I suppose maybe even in terms of how we've been introduced, I think that the common link there is data centers, and I mean quite a substantial part of our business is security infrastructure within the data center environment. So as you can imagine, there's a huge reliance on security systems and effective security systems when you look at the profile of data that's held in the security data center or in the data centers themselves. So and
I just want to bring you back a little bit. So you did your leaving cert or your junior cert or whatever, and you did an apprenticeship, I guess.
Funny enough, there was no apprenticeship around back in the day. So the security system was actually called the Electronic Security Systems Apprenticeship, which is now run by Sulis. That was set up, I think it was around 2005 or 2006. So up until that point, it was very much you kind of learn from your peers, and there were skills kind of handed down. I mean, been huge developments in the last 20 years, particularly around technical standards and how they've been harmonized across Europe. You had the development of the PSA, which regulates the security industry here in Ireland, which was really a terrific move, I think, because the industry was made up of all walks of life, and a huge variety of I suppose, the people and businesses involved in it. So what it did was it really drove professional standards around the industry.
And that's probably a question that I'd also, when I hear of security as a generic term, I think of the fellas who used to stop me from going into nightclubs as a young fella. But they're just a part. They're obviously bouncers or whatever, but they're in the security. Then you have physical security for buildings and palisade fences. Then you've got inside, which is all the stuff you're talking about. It's massive, isn't it? It's massive, the whole word, and then the industry. But it's a slightly unseen. It's not really in your face until it goes wrong, I guess. Is that fair?
Yeah, very much. I suppose, as I say, there's a huge reliance on security systems in everything you do every day, and it is very much, unseen. I suppose the face of security, as you described there, will be very much on the man guarding side, for instance. But when you look at the technology and the type of technology that's deployed to protect buildings, assets, capital infrastructure, there's a huge amount there when your eye is trained onto it.
So it's like a lot of these things. You go out and you buy a car. Before you buy it, you think it's unique on the road, and then every second car you drive by seems to be it. And you go, how did that happen? So you're head of operations now, which is wonderful. What's the makeup of an operations team? What's the different disciplines and the different skills that you need to have at your disposal to execute the sales, I guess, or create the next wave of innovation? What's this breadth you'd have?
Yeah, I suppose we're really, really lucky, actually, insofar as Convergint, started up in Ireland maybe about 5 years ago, and Adrian Hill led the business from that point, and to the point where he's the general manager here of the business here in Ireland. There was an MTS security, which lots of people who are involved in the industry would know. And Convergint was merged about 4 years ago. And so that's how we sort of had that overnight kind of growth, and was through acquisition. Really terrific business here, people who've been involved in MTS for maybe 30 years. And there's the structure of the business has very much stayed the same, but what we have there is we have maybe the influence and support of Convergint internationally. So it gives us a really good footing in the international markets when you combine that with the skills and the talent that we have here already.
And would you have then architects, engineers, apprenticeships, installers, warehousing? I mean,
I suppose the makeup of it is, we have a number of colleagues in sales who are account executives. We have a finance team, we have operations team, procurement team, service team. We have our installation engineers who are really on the coal face, going out to do the work, as I would say, on the fringe of the business. You've your management team here internally, and then the senior leadership team as well, who are involved. Our project managers, who would directly report to me, are made up of maybe 15 project managers, and each one of those would have a variety of projects then that they would manage either here in Ireland or across EMEA.
And what would their backgrounds be? What would the project managers' backgrounds be? Would it be?
I suppose it's a great question, actually. I suppose there's been years ago, security project managers would have had a great technical knowledge, but there's been a real movement away from that in the last few years, because the technical teams the technical teams exist to deal with the technical questions. So the project managers, the core functions there are communication, planning, coordination, all of those, they're real kind of key features or key functions, if you like, for project managers. And then our installations team take care of the install, and we have program managers who maybe might run a number of projects in parallel through different project managers. So, I mean, it can be quite complicated at times because you're working across different time zones. We're reliant on partners and other Convergint CTCs across Europe as well to deliver projects for us. So yeah, it can bring some complications, but also you'll never die of boredom, put it that way.
And it does bring us back, and it's a nice link through, is that there's a general sense that a lot of projects in digital infrastructure space throughout Europe has a link back to Ireland, whether it's via the contracts with main contractors, whether it's the supply side, whether it's the end user. Does that add complications to you when you have to send colleagues internationally project managing or installing from here as a base, or is that part of the attraction for joining you?
Yeah, we're very lucky insofar as we have some really great colleagues who are delivering projects overseas. So they may be based here in Ireland, but would work for maybe a stint in Sweden or Germany or France, for example. But then there are also a number of Convergint entities in some of those host countries as well. So again, Germany, France, the Netherlands, Poland, the UK, we'd have a great presence there. So in terms of offering that sort of that resilience when we're delivering those projects, we have businesses there that are stood up and ready to support that growth.
And I hope you agree with me. Thank goodness that all these wonderful people speak English.
Yeah. Well, if they were relying on my 6 years of French when I went to school to run through a project management plan, they would be very confused by the end of it, I think.
Although there's quite a lot of Irish people often tell me in this trade that they know how to order 2 beers in about 17 languages. So it has. So I'm going to finish with this final question for you, and it's bringing you back a few years. So you're talking to an 18-year-old version of yourself, you're having a chat with them. What are you telling them? What are you? Only you know.
I have to say, I'm quite envious of 18-year-olds getting into the security industry now. I mean, if you look at the opportunities, not only with a big integrator such as Convergint, and then you kind of pair that off with the international opportunities, if you like, a bit of travel, we've got locations all over the world. We regularly link in with some of our colleagues at an annual event called Convergent Nation. And we've colleagues from Asia, Australia, North America, South America. And when you look how flat the organization is internally, I mean, if you've got the right kind of entrepreneurial flair and the right energy, the world is your oyster. It really is.
It's amazing because it's a very common theme that comes out from the companies that have been on the show for the month, is that when young talent decides and goes home and tells his mum or dad, I'm going to work in Denmark, they really do think you're gone for forever. Yeah. They can't seem to realize that you're just gone on secondment for 6 weeks or.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing to kind of get your head around at times, but it's become so common now. I mean, one of the great things about the security systems apprenticeship is that it's a 4-year standard-based apprenticeship. So if you decide to leave school at 18, you're not, maybe you feel timing isn't right to go and do third level. Mm-hmm. Once you've completed a trade, it gives you that opportunity then to progress that. As I said, I left school and became a mechanic. I did a primary degree as a mature student, and I worked on through all these different routes. But I think it's very difficult as an 18-year-old, and probably a little bit unrealistic to expect everyone to choose their path at that age, So a trade gives you a whole host of opportunities, looking into your early 20s, if you decide to kind of pivot and look back and say, well, hang on, we might look at third level here, engineering, or I mean, there's a whole host of apprenticeships. But
it's a discipline. What I'm hearing a lot from a lot of people is it's still structure and a discipline. And so you have a syllabus, you have to do day block, and you've got to do these things. And as you say, 18-year-olds at the best of time aren't very disciplined, even in my day. And that's a long time ago.
Generally speaking, our teams who are released, as we've got 8 apprentices here in the business, and generally the first stint in for phase 2 is about 20 weeks long. And initially you find everyone is very apprehensive about, going to Letterkenny or Tipperary for 20 weeks. And you generally find you have to go up and pin them, pin them down to bring them back, because
you need to throw them in digs. You need to get them into digs like the good old days. Stephen, it's been short and sharp, but it genuinely has been interesting. It's great to see the different start, middle, and end career paths, because I think that we're, particularly at the moment, there's people getting results from college and school and stuff, and it's never a straight line. It's always sort of a bit up and down and around or back, and sometimes even double backing yourself. So thank you. I wish you continued success with Convergint and yourself. Congratulations. We'll come back in a couple of years, maybe. Those programs that come back, how are they getting on now? And we'll see how you're getting on with the new role.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Garry. Really great chatting to you. Mind yourself.